What I want to do with this video is explore the notion of a matrix outside of the context of a pretty awesome movie called The Matrix, starring Keanu Reeves. It's actually the first of three movies, so I guess we could call these three movies combined The Matrices. And there is a relationship between the movie, which is about a virtual reality constructed by super smart computers, and the notion of what a matrix is when you study it in mathematics or computer science. The connection really is that matrices are used a lot when you are constructing things in computer science, especially in computer graphics. So the super intelligent robots that made the Matrix in the movie The Matrix were probably using matrices in order to do it, if they actually did exist. Now, what exactly is a matrix? Well, it is simply a rectangular array of numbers. So, for example, I have these brackets here, and I'm going to put numbers inside of these brackets. So, 1, 7, 4, 3, pi, -5. Now, these numbers that are inside of these brackets, all of these different numbers here, these are called entries. And this entire thing itself is called a matrix. Now, I can find the dimensions of this matrix using the rows and columns of the matrix. So here we have 2 rows, and we also have 3 columns, making this a 2 by 3 matrix. And just know that a matrix is always, the dimensions of a matrix is always going to be the rows, number of rows by the number of columns. So yes, this means that I can in fact have a 1 by 1 matrix. It would look something like this. It would have a bracket and just be one number. This is 1 row, 1 column, making it a 1 by 1 matrix. I can have a 1 by 3 matrix that is simply 1 row and 3 columns. So there would be 3 different entries in this matrix. Again, 1 by 3 matrix. I can even have more rows than columns. So I can have a matrix that looks like this: 2, 7, 8, 9, 11, -12. This would be a 3 by 2 matrix because there are 3 rows and 2 columns. So we know that a matrix is a rectangular array of numbers, and you can say what its dimensions are. You know that each of these numbers that takes a position in a matrix is called an entry. But what are matrices good for? What exactly is the connection between a matrix and the movie The Matrix? At the most fundamental level, this matrix is just a compact representation of a bunch of numbers. It's a way of representing information. They become very valuable in computer graphics because these numbers could represent the color intensity at a certain point, or whether an object is even there at a certain point. Now that we know how to construct a matrix and find its dimensions, we are going to perform various operations on matrices that we would normally perform on numbers. So we are going to learn how to multiply matrices, how to add matrices, how to subtract them, and how to even take the inverse of a matrix. This will be very useful in the future if you're trying to write a computer graphics program or do an economic simulation or a probability simulation. You'll be able to say, oh, I have this matrix that represents where different particles are in space, or I have this matrix that represents the state of some type of video game. I know how to perform operations on matrices efficiently, so I know how to multiply a bunch of them or run a simulation so I can come up with some useful results. Now that we know what a matrix is, let's define one of these operations on matrices. We're going to take a look at something called scalar multiplication. So I'm going to draw a 2 by 3 matrix. So let's go with 2, 4, 7, -5, 0, and 3. Okay, so we have this 2 by 3 matrix, and I'm going to take a number, let's go with 3, and put it on the outside of the matrix, and this is a multiplication sign here. So let's just take a second to define one of these terms. So this 3 that we have here, in everyday regular life, this 3 would be called a number. It doesn't have any special name, it's just a regular number. But in the structured world of matrices, this 3 is actually something called a scalar, which is, again, where we get scalar multiplication. So how are we going to multiply this matrix by the scalar 3? Well, as you may have guessed, we're going to take this 3 and distribute it into each of the entries in the matrix. So if we actually go ahead and do that, we have 3 times 2, 3 times 4, 3 times 7, 3 times -5, 3 times 0, and 3 times 3. And then if we multiply that out, we get 6, 12, 21, -15. Remember, a positive number times a negative number is a negative number. 3 times 0 is 0, and 3 times 3 is 9. So there we have it. That's how we would take a scalar and distribute it into a matrix. So scalar multiplication. If you can do this with a negative number. So if you have a negative number, say that was -3, you would just distribute that negative along with the whatever the scalar is. So in this video, you have essentially learned what matrices are and how we use them in a mathematical context. But later on in college, when you take a linear algebra course, you will take a look at matrices more and learn about them more in depth. In the next video, we will learn how to perform some more operations on these matrices, specifically addition and subtraction. Please be sure to complete the Google Forms for this video, and we'll see you next time.